Hi folks, Matt Easton here of Schola Gladiatoria. I'm holding a French sword for a good reason, because I'm going to talk about France. And the reason I'm going to talk about France is because for a long time, in fact for a couple of years, I've been thinking about making a video about this. And it's very simply, I get incredibly pissed off, and I must warn you, I'm going to swear a bit in this video. I get incredibly pissed off by the fact that whenever anything French and military is discussed, the famous Google French military successes or French military failures comes up, and people make all of the normal stereotypical jokes about French military prowess. And what I really want to say is, shut the fuck up, okay? You're talking complete bollocks and you make yourselves look like total fucking twats. The reason is because it flies in the face of actual fucking history. If you're going to make jokes based on history, or statements or assertions based on history, read some fucking history, okay? Let's think about this for a minute. French military, cowardice or just general rubbishness? It's not a thing, okay? Napoleon was from Corsica, but basically French, and he led a French army, and, you know, involved other nationalities as well. But Napoleon was pretty fucking awesome on the battlefield, and so were the French army. So there we go, let's not even go any earlier than Napoleon. I could go on about the 100 Years' War, which they won, and all of the other successes like assisting the American Revolution, essentially being responsible for America becoming an independent country and kicking the British out and all of those things. But let's start with Napoleon and move on from there, okay? So, Napoleonic Wars. France was pretty fucking awesome and kicked everyone's arses until everyone managed to gang together pretty much to defeat them, okay? And it took basically everyone, and it took 20 years to do it, okay? So there's the first thing. Napoleon. France was awesome then. Let's move now to the Crimean War. So the Crimean War was a complete fucking mess. It was a war that should never have happened, but it was essentially to do with colonial interests and protecting routes to India and all sorts of other things, and the failing Ottoman Empire and so on and so forth. But essentially there were a bunch of European nations, Russia, France and Britain primarily, and Turkey, who were there, and Sardinia as well, who were there, who shouldn't really have been there. It was a complete fuck up. And basically Britain performed pretty fucking awfully in the Crimean War, and do you know who performed better? France. Their military was far better organised, their soldiers performed better. We had the fuck up of the charge of the Light Brigade, the French didn't do anything like that. The French were far more effective in the siege of Sebastopol, and generally speaking the French army made the British army look totally shit in the Crimean War. So there we go. And also something to mention is the Chasseurs d'Afrique, the African chasseurs, saved some men of the Light Brigade when they'd been shot to pieces by the Russian guns. So, Crimean War. Next up, World War I. France and Britain fought against Germany in World War I, and France fought fucking hard for 4 years, okay? And they won! With us, with Britain as well, yes, Britain and France together. But the French didn't do anything lacklustre or anything not good in World War I. Yes, it was another fucking ridiculous war where lots of common people got sent there by the powers that be, by our governments, to die on their behalf for a war that should never really have happened. We know all of that. But the French army performed excellently in World War I. Okay? Next thing, Vietnam. Or people go, oh, you know, they ran away from Vietnam. Well, yeah, they chose that Indochina was not a good place to be anymore, and they withdrew, and the Americans went, oh, we don't want the communists taking over there, so we'll jump in, we'll take over this war for you, don't worry France, we'll do this. And America fucked up as well. So let's just scratch that one off yeah, let's learn from that mistake. Vietnam was a fucking mess and a mistake, and again, we shouldn't have been there, and we didn't gain anything from it. Well, I say we, France and America. Britain wasn't there, luckily. World War II, everyone goes, ah, but France surrendered in World War II. So did everybody else, for fuck's sake, okay? America never got attacked or invaded, except for Pearl Harbor, okay, a long distance that, but America was surrounded by a huge amount of fucking sea. Lucky America, a great big country, lots of population, lots of resources, with huge thousands of miles of ocean all around it. Lucky America. Britain, lucky fucking Britain. We had the English Channel. If we hadn't had the English Channel, we would have been fucked. Let's not beat around the bush here, okay? We had an expeditionary force that went over in 1939 to France, and we got beaten the living shit out of, and we managed to run away at Dunkirk, where also some of the French that became the Free French Army managed to evacuate Dunkirk as well. It was a fuck up. Germany, much like Napoleon previously, was kicking everybody's asses, and basically everyone fought and ultimately then surrendered in Europe against the Germans, except for the Russians, essentially. Okay? So anyway, the fact that Vichy France surrendered to Germany, they didn't have a choice, did they? They didn't have a choice, and let's face it, yes, it took a while for them to get an active resistance together, but they did have an active resistance, and the resistance did achieve quite a lot. And there was a Free French Army. There were lots of Free French soldiers and pilots and sailors who fought against Germany right the way through the war. Okay, Charles de Gaulle then led them back. Blah blah blah. We know the rest. The rest is history. Okay. Finally, modern history. Okay, in the Balkans, when various countries decided to fight against Serbia because of what was going on in Bosnia, do you know who had the most planes in the area? Was it America? No! America flew long-distance missions from America and from Britain and from other places. France. France had the most aeroplanes in the Balkans at that time. Britain had the most ground troops, France had the most air forces there, and they were doing the most bombing. So, French Air Force, well done guys. Well, assuming that you agree with that, I'm not going to get into the politics. I actually don't know the politics of the Balkan conflict at all, really. But France performed very well in the Balkans. If you take politics out of the equation and whether they should have been there or not, they did very well. Finally, Iraq, the French Foreign Legion. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I really believe that in Gulf War I, the first tanks, the first ground forces into Iraq were the French Foreign Legion tanks. At least if they weren't first, they were certainly pretty much spearheading the invasion of Iraq to, obviously, well, we know all the history of that and I won't go into that. But the point of the matter is that, much like this French sword that I'm holding, the French have performed fucking excellently. For hundreds of years, France has been an awesome military power, right the way from Charlemagne onwards. In other words, since France existed. France has always been one of the most mighty countries in Europe. It has always been the equal of Germany and usually the superior of Britain. It was only in relatively modern history that, thanks to India primarily and the empire, that Britain became the more powerful military nation in Europe. But of course that was completely dashed to pieces in World War I and World War II, and we are no longer. But the fact of the matter is that France has been a very formidable military nation for hundreds of years. And in all of the wars I've just mentioned, Napoleonic Wars, Crimean War, various colonial conflicts, and World War I, they performed absolutely outstandingly. So please, instead of making the stupid sort of anti-French jokes about their military prowess, shut the fuck up, go and read a history book. Cheers folks. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and feel free to follow us on Facebook.